So we're going to do another canvas thing here, but I want to start from scratch. So you guys can do whatever, but I'm going to start from scratch because I think it's good practice to do that, especially with Canvas, because there's a lot of little teeny details that you have to do right every time. And if you forget one, it'll mess with your head a little bit, and you'll be like, why is this not working? Why is this not working? I've done this 1,000 times. You've had me do that on camera. That's happened to me before, right? So, and also it's just good to rehash it kind of in baby steps. So the first thing we're going to do here is create canvas, right? Just a blank canvas. I think I was kind of about right canvas there. Not sure what was happening. Come on, that's hilarious. Some jokes are just for me, I guess. Okay, and then in our style here, yeah.
You may want to take out the other.
Oh, thanks for the reminder. I did that last time, didn't I? I meant to cut that and not copy that. Thanks. All right, and then just we're going to style it. Background is going to be RGBA green. No red, sorry, that's no red. 255, 0.5, because that sounds fun. I don't know, it's going to be some sort of translucent green color. All right, and then the other important thing is in our JavaScript, there's a few things we have to kind of do right away. So this is the part why I wanted to do it again, even though we did it the other day. I want to show you how I think when I set up a Canvas project. All right, first thing, I always have the world variable, right, which is our canvas. And then I have, we called it a pencil last time, we're going to go with brush this time. So I set up those two variables. You see my brain still hasn't transferred to let yet. So I set up these two variables here, and then we assign the world, the actual width, sorry, the world is going to equal document.querySelector. And the canvas. So we're assigning our world is the canvas, right? The world is your oyster. All right, and then we want to, if you remember last time, we had like a setup function, and then we had the draw function that was our loop. So I'm going to call those two functions right now, even though they don't exist, because you'll forget. I do it all the time. Draw, and again, you can call those whatever you want. That's what I prefer to name them, but it's fine. And then I'm going to quickly make them real quick. Function, setup, and then function, draw. Right, so this is kind of the skeleton of everything right here, right? Next up, within the setup, I'm going to go ahead and set up these few variables here. So I'm going to set up the width of the window of the canvas, right? The world.width. You remember that property? And that's equal to what? Remember? Window.innerWidth. Yeah. Now, you don't have to do that. You can make it like a 400 by 400 canvas or whatever you want to do. It's totally fine. And in fact, I think I'm probably going to make that required on your final project to have just a little something happening in Canvas, like a little 200 by 200 on your home page. It's a little ball bouncing around or something like that, nothing super crazy. But I think I want to do that so the front of your home page will have something like that. Maybe if you want to do your Space Invaders game, do that little version of it, right? Do Pac-Man, who knows? All right, world.height, same thing, window.innerHeight. All right, so that's going to set up the size of it. Let's just see if that worked. Make sure there's nothing broken here. I guess I should probably actually run the file here. There we go. Look, it's nice, hideous green here. The other thing I like to do, you guys might recall, if I have the console open here and I refresh, what happens when I close the console? I lose my canvas, right? If you have a set size, you still want to do this because the console might overlap your set size. But I want mine to be full screen. So real quick, the way we do that is we put an action listener, an event listener, which I like to put on the outside here, which is window.addEventListener. And again, it's on resize is when we're going to call the event. And what event are we going to call, Joshua? What do you think?
It's,
Look on the screen. It's actually, there's a hint on there.
oh, the resize is there, so, we're calling the setup.
Yep, there we go, setup function. So we're just gonna reset up the canvas, right? All right, so that'll allow everything to resize properly, no problem. Okay, next up, I wanna go ahead and just get my loop going, my animation loop, so I don't have to worry about that later, right? So my animation loop is, remember, it's request animation frame, don't forget the proper case sensitivity there, and we're gonna call the draw function. So that line 15, recursively calls the draw function, it's gonna call it an infinite number of times until you close the page, right? There's one last thing I like to put in there. Do you guys remember what it was?
The brush object?
Close. We want to draw a rectangle that's the size of the page and clear a rectangle, I should say, the size of the page. That way you don't get the trailing effect with your animation. I'll leave it off for now so we can see that effect again in a minute, and then I'll add it on later. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to finish building our brush, right? We've set up our world, we got our canvas going. Now the brush is, we're gonna say brush brush equals world.getContext. And that context is 2D, as in two-dimensional. Right, we're not gonna get into 3D. If you guys wanna explore that, feel free to dive in yourself, play around with that, okay? So that's everything we need to start drawing stuff, right? We've got a canvas, which we call our world, our happy little world, and we have a brush, it's our paintbrush, if you will. And remember, this getContext returns an object, right? That object has all these functions and methods and everything that you can access, and it allows you to set properties, change things, draw things, and do all kinds of stuff. So last time we looked at an arc, right? Just a quick refresher. What does an arc look like? I'm gonna just put it in the setup function for right now. What's an arc look like?
You gotta have the draw start, draw end.
Oh yeah, begin path, right? Good. So we need to brush.begin path. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more today. And then we need a brush.stop path, close path, sorry. Path. Okay, we need that. And then brush dot, we're gonna draw an arc, right? And what are the properties that go in there?
X, Y, radius, and the start point.
Yeah, that one's optional, but we can do that one too. So the X, Y, we're just gonna do it like at 100 and 100. The radius, we'll do 50. And then it needs its where, because remember, it's an arc that we're drawing. It's not necessarily a circle, right? So where on the circle, we're starting at 0, which is just flat on the x-axis, and then we're gonna draw it from 0 all the way around to some number of radians, which in our case, pi times 2, which gives us 360 degrees, right? So it goes from 0 to math times pi, and then Shane, you mentioned the clockwise or counterclockwise. I think true is clockwise, and oh my gosh, it's not a hard word to spell, folks. Jeez. And false is counterclockwise, or vice versa. I don't know. We're just gonna pick one. You don't even need it. All right. Then, so now what I've done, I've created an arc, but have I drawn it yet? I have not drawn it yet. How do I draw it? Stroke or fill, right? Pick one if you, or both, right? So you just brush dot fill. Sorry, I think it's just, is it brush dot or is it just fill? Pretty sure.
Brush, and then we did a variable.
We did different, yeah, we did use a variable. Yeah, I thought so. I can, that's one of those ones I always forget. And I needed to go pi times 2 there, sorry about that. There we go, okay, math time, pi times 2. So there we go. If I wanted to put a stroke on it, I could do that. I could say brush.stroke, which obviously it's calling the object now. Well, I don't know why I thought it wouldn't be. That was weird. And the default colors are black, so you can't really see a difference here. But before I draw the arc, I can change the color, right? I can say brush.stroke equals red, right? and brush.line width. This is all review from the other day, so I'm going pretty quick. So I got this big fat line width equals 10. And then what do we got going here? In the console, something happened. Yeah, red is not defined because I didn't put it in quotes. Okay. There we go. All right, and now what's this other one? Brush.stroke is not a function. Oh, right there. That's what I want. Style. There we go. My gosh. See, I told you guys, this is why I want to do it from the beginning, because there's all these little details that you forget, right? I still don't have all those functions and properties memorized, right? So let's just look at what's going on here. Break this down into a couple lines here. So this is me setting up the style of the stroke. This is me actually doing the stroke. This is me setting up the thickness of the stroke. And again, that happens when I put that stroke right there. If I did not have that line, those two properties wouldn't matter, right? The thickness and the color, all right? The other thing, the fill, I can also choose a fill style, brush.fill style, and we'll make it blue. All right, and now the fill will be blue, okay? All right, that was the 2-second recap of what we did the other day, or the 5-minute recap of what we did the other day. Do you have any questions about the basic big picture there? Okay, yeah.
Does it matter the orientation of where each of those styles are?
These don't matter the order as long as they're before the arc, you're good, yeah. And these are as long as they're after. And it seems like we might be okay before, but it seems like that causes issues. Yeah, it's still okay. As long as it's before the actual act of drawing it, you're okay, yeah. But the order doesn't matter. All right. Okay. Did I see a hand over here? No? Okay. All right, so now notice here, I didn't create a ball object like we did the other day, right? I didn't worry about creating an object there. You don't need to do that. We don't have to do that. I just made it here, right in my setup, okay? If I wanted to do a ball object, that would be useful for making the ball bounce around or whatever and animate. So we will do that, but we're gonna make some different shapes first. We're gonna do a rectangle in a minute. We're also gonna look at drawing separate lines, all right? So I'm gonna clear all this stuff right here in the setup, and I'm actually gonna just create a function that's called Thingie. Because we're going to draw thingies, okay? So we're going to keep continually to change what properties it can take and hold and everything. At the moment, Thingie's going to be, in fact, we're not even going to pass it in properties right now. We're just going to put all the code in there. So every time we call it, it's going to draw something different. All right, so in here, we need a function to be able to do all this. So this dot, show, which is what I tend to write for this function, is equal to a function, all right? So we're gonna eventually just create a thingy and then say thingy.show, right? Right there, okay? So the first thing, let's go ahead and put that in there. And let's take a look at drawing a rectangle. Actually, let's draw a line because it's a little trickier, and we might have more questions on that one. So there's a couple of functions we want to look at here. One is called, brush.move to. What this is, it's the starting point of the line, right? So what do you suppose it's going to take in its properties, or parameters? X and Y coordinates, right? So it says move to 100, 100, or whatever, okay? Then we have line 2. This will draw a line to some other point, right? So let's do like, 200 by 200, okay? And if I don't put a stroke style or a fill or any of that stuff, defaults, everything is black, okay? So just this alone is enough to draw a line, so let's make a thingy object. And in here, we'll say thingy equals new, sorry, that should be lowercase, I'll fix that in a minute, thingy, all right, lowercase. I'm gonna get tired of typing that over again, so we're gonna call it T. T, all right? All right, so T equals new thingy, and then I want to draw the thingy in my setup function, right? So T.show, because that's what I called my little function here in the object, right? We clear on conceptually what I just did there? You may not understand that move to line 2 yet, but the rest of the object stuff we good there? Okay? All right, so let's see if I goofed anything up. Of course I did. All right. Lines, I got any errors? No, of course I don't. T.show. Oh, because I never drew it. Yep. Brush.stroke. Always got to draw it, folks. Remember, so like we did before, with we made the arc, but then we had to draw it. Same thing happens here. All I'm doing is plotting out the points and creating this sort of floating thing in memory that is these points eventually, but I never told it to draw it on the canvas. So now I'm putting the stroke in there, and now it draws it on the canvas, right? Okay? You can see how it's a bunch of little teeny dots being drawn over in the line. All right? Change that back here, close that. All right, so there it is. There's our line. Now, let's make another line. We're gonna make a triangle, like an upside down triangle, or a regular triangle, whatever, okay? So, we know where our cursor's at the moment, right? It's at 200. I'm tempted, yeah, I'm gonna do a little tangent here, okay? What I wanna do is make it to where wherever my mouse is on the screen, the actual XY coordinates will follow my mouse. So right now, if I were to put my mouse right there, 100, 100 would be in parentheses attached to my mouse. If I move my mouse down here, 200, 200 will be on my mouse, right? It's going to be a tool to help us know where to draw the lines, but it's also a good thing to know how to do in Canvas, right? So here we go. So tangenting from the line for just a minute, okay? I want to create a mouse object or variable, right? So let mouse, you can call it whatever you want, but mouse seems appropriate. And I'm going to give it two properties. I'm going to create an object literal here. I'm going to give it x, undefined for the moment, and y, undefined for the moment, okay? Right, follow what I'm doing there? I'm just creating an object literal with two properties, so mouse.x, mouse.y. I could have called that beavis.x, beavis.y, whatever I want to call it, all right? Now what I want to do is I'm going to create an action listener, so window or an event listener, and there's one called mouseove, okay? Mouseove. And I want a function that I'm going to create that's going to be called getCoords or something like that. So this on the moment I move, I want to grab the coordinates of where my mouse is at that exact second, okay? So I'll tell you how to grab it in a minute, but we're just going to call it getCoords, right? That's the name of the function, okay? All right, so let's make this function here. Function getCoords. Now, if you're from the Java world, you'll recognize this idea. Whenever there's an event, a mouse move, a click, a key pressed, a resizing of a window, whenever there's an event, there's actually a parameter that's just goes along for the ride. It's an object that has a whole bunch of stuff in it, right? And if we, right here, we put event right there, that is a parameter that's automatically going to be this move right here, this move right here, that creates an event, and it creates an actual object, and it's going to pass it to this coordinates function. And so we'll have all the stuff that's in the event right there available to us. Yeah.
Does that happen with any event listener?
Yes. Yep, automatically. So when we did resize, what was passed in, what was given to the setup, we didn't need it because we didn't call for it there, but what would have been passed in is also an event object, and that would allow us to get a hold of anything that's related to that event. So what are the things that are related to that event? There's 18 billion of them, right? But one that we care about in this case is the actual X and Y location of where the event occurred. And since it is a mouse move, that will exist in there. So there actually will be, whatever the event is called, an X, right? Well, what do I want to do with that X? I want to display it. I want to give it to my mouse.x variable. Because think about what happens here. If I just displayed event.x in the console or whatever, I need to display it in a specific position, right? Well, I want to assign it to my mouse.x variable, so I have it in a variable that I can display that variable all over the place. That event's constantly changing. I don't have to keep calling that object over and over again, which we still kind of do anyway, but you'll see, okay? So what I want is mouse.x equal to event.x, and mouse.y equal to event.y. All right? So now, let's just look at this for a second. I think all my variables are global, yeah. So watch this, I'm gonna open the console here and refresh the screen, and I'll move my mouse. Now that I've moved it, that event has fired. So if I look over here and I type mouse.x, my mouse, it may not be at 439 at the moment, but it was the last time I stored that variable, right? I moved it again, so who knows what happened, right? But it should be right about where my mouse is at, all right? So I move it again, I hit mouse.x, it's at a new position, okay? All right, so we've got the data now, we just need to display it, right? So how do I display it? Well, we've got things where we can draw rectangles, we can draw arcs, we can draw lines, we can draw text, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. In this getCoordinates event, we're gonna just draw it right in there, and we're gonna take the brush dot fill text, I think is what we want. I think that's what it's called. I'll have to double check if not. Let's just see if that's actually gonna work. Let's just put something in there for now, like hello. And where do I put it? You actually put it at whatever coordinate on the screen you want it. Where do I want it? I want it at mouse.x and mouse.y, right? Which will be exactly wherever my mouse is. So now this should have hello following my mouse all over the page. And it is, see that? Okay? It's everywhere my mouse is, the word hello is. Now, the thing I told you about earlier, clearing a rectangle, we want to do that, right? That's kind of a cool effect though. And if you were making some sort of app where the user could draw or paint something, this might be a useful kind of thing to do, all right? All right, so that one thing I told you that we always want to do in our draw function here, we would want to do brush dot clear rect on the size of our world dot width. And we missed a parameter, hold on, I'll get that. And that's going to be starting at 0, 0, and it's going to clear the height and width, right? So now it's just hello, 27. There should be a period there. And now when I refresh, why are you not there now? All right, folks. Oh, why is it not there? No, because I'm refreshing the canvas every time. I only drew it in my coordinates event. That's not a good place to draw that. I need to draw that in my loop, right? Make sense? Okay, there's a lot of little tricky things that you have to be careful of. So now we got hello following me all around. Well, I don't want hello to follow me around. I want the X and Y coordinates to follow me around, right? Notice my rectangle went away too. Why did it go away? Because I drew it in the setup and we refreshed the screen, right? So we'll fix that in a minute. But what I want now, I want this thing here, I don't want it to say hello. I want it to say parenthesis, X colon, mouse X, follow me? So it's going to be a parenthesis, X colon, then whatever the mouse X value is. Does everybody understand that? Okay, then plus, comma, space, Y colon, space, mouse dot Y, plus, close the parentheses there. That should give me what I'm looking for, okay? So now look what's going on here. My coordinates, oh, I got an extra plus in there. Right there, that should not be there. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now I can see the exact coordinate. Now I know exactly where my mouse is at. right? That's a useful little tool that we're gonna need when we draw our lines in a minute. This is just for fun, just to help us understand how to use text, number one, and number two, to see what our coordinates are, right? So we can also do, right here, we can say brush dot font is equal to, you can pick up size like 30, we're gonna do like 40 pixels chiller. Right? You just pick the font name and the font size, and that syntax will work just fine. So now we got big fat text there that we can read very easily, okay? All right, what questions do you have about that basic idea? So we had two questions while the camera was turned off. The first one was, I'll get to in a second, about the mouse object. The second one, though, was about this request animation frame. And the question is, how does it ever get to this code? Because this seems like a recursive call that's just going to sit here and loop and loop and loop and call the draw function over and over and never get to these lines of code. And the answer to that question is, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how that works. I don't think it's, if I knew more about that function, maybe I could answer that better. But I don't think it's a true recursive call. The second question, or the first question that we had, was what's going on with this mouse business right here? This is the same thing. I could have said, function mouse this dot x equals x and this dot y equals y. And now then, having created that object, I could say mouse equals new mouse. Right? I could do that. That's basically what I did. But remember our metaphor with the cookie cutter, right? Line 5 is the cookie cutter. Line 4 was me actually making a cookie with that cookie cutter. But what we, instead of doing lines 4 and 5, what we did is line 2, which is just taking the dough and making the object ourselves without actually making a class, right? So we just created the object, a literal object, right? All right, so now we have the literal object, and now we can refer to it as mouse.x, and we can assign it the actual coordinate of where the mouse is located. So now we have this nice little fancy tool here for us, so we can see exactly where we're at on the canvas, right? All right, let's get back to our line. Notice our line went away because I have our show in the setup. Well, we want to put the show line in the draw function, right? Because if we don't, then it's just going to go away when we reset the draw. So I'm going to put that back in here. There we go. So now the line's back, and now I can look. The whole reason I did that little tangent there is so that I can know exactly what coordinates I want. I want to draw another line from right here at 200, 200. Now I have that tool. I know exactly where I'm at. Up to about right here, right? And I'm looking at this one. This is at 100, or so that's probably 100, 100, right? My mouse is a little off. So this 100 on the Y, or on the, see, this isn't helping me at all. I thought it would. That's 100Y, right? That makes sense. Yeah, it's 100 from the top, yeah. So I want to go down 100, and I want to go up to this point, which is about, I don't know, does that look like about an equilateral triangle right there? If it would draw a point from the bottom of the triangle to my arrow, my cursor? Well, 300, yeah, but does that look about right? Yeah. Okay, so which kind of makes sense with the numbers we used here. That sounds about right. So I want to now do another line, brush line 2. I want to go to, what did we say, 300, 100? That should get us there. Let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. And now I want to close it off, right? So if I close it off, that's going to go back to my 100, 100. We already know that, right? Oops. All right. Except I missed something. Yep, thanks. That's what you get for copying and pasting your code. There we go. Okay, so now we drew a triangle. All right, now, we can do more with this, right? One of the cool things about this is because we have this begin path, end path, it knows that this is a whole thing, right? if I were to not have this begin path and close path there, I said end path, but I meant close path. If I didn't have the begin and close, the next time I tried to draw a line, it would think it's part of this set of lines. It would treat them all as one set of lines, right? And it would try to make them connected somehow. And so it's tricky to try to contrive an example of it. So I'm not gonna try to do that, but just know that one triangle is its own thing. So we want it to be in that begin path, close path. If I wanted to make some other thing somewhere on the screen, I would actually do another open and close path, right? Begin and close path, okay. Now, because this is its own thing, we can actually fill it. We'll just fill it black with the default there, but now it fills in. Yeah, Alex?
Is there a way to make this scale?
Yes, there's translate functions, there's scale functions, rotate functions, a whole bunch of different ones that are part of our brush object, for sure. We're not gonna get into those today, we might in a future day, but yeah. Yep. The translate function, like, let me just, for a square, when you draw a square, which we'll look at in a minute, you pass in the XY coordinates of where you want it to start. Well, it starts the top left corner of the square. If you use translate, you can change it to where the XY is the center of the square, or you can change where it's at, which is useful in some contexts for sure. Do you have a question, Frank?
Never mind, I saw it.
Got it? All right. You don't need me. Yeah.
Can you make that triangle follow your cursor?
Yes, you could. Yeah, that's a little tricky, but yeah, you can make it follow around. Yeah. That'd be a little tricky because you're dealing with 3 different line segments. And so there's a lot of math involved in an application like that, but you can make anything follow your cursor for sure. The balls we made the other day, the little bouncy balls, we can make one of those follow your cursor, yeah.
The way so you can make it slowly draw a line instead of how we did it last time with the wall we had in one.
So do you want to make slowly, you want to animate the line draw itself? Not really, because you could slow down the frame rate, but that will just slow down the whole thing. But remember, when we drew the ball, the ball just appears, right? It just appears on the screen. And same thing with this line, they just appear on the screen. The reason we saw the ball moving is because we kept redrawing it at a different location, right? And so that's why we saw the trail, because we were redrawing it at a different location. So if you want that line to start off at one point and slowly draw up to 300 or whatever, there's probably a way other than the frame rate, but I'm not sure. Because that's not really an animation, that's just bam, it's there, just like the circle was. Okay, so how do we feel about the drawing lines? You can make if you can plot out any kind of polygon, you can draw it, right? And it will fill it if you give it a fill. And so we can also come in here and give this brush dot stroke style equals red, and brush dot line width equals 10. Get a nice thick border around it, right? Okay. Look at that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that corner
Try to
is
fix that. I don't
gross.
like it.
Might have to drop around again.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
Is there there's no close, like a close?
Well, we have the closed path here.
No, like
Yeah,
to
like-
close off the line.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah.
Most of the time when I use Canvas, I use squares and circles. There probably is a function out there. I'm just curious, so what would happen if I tried to move to another line? Again, this is a silly solution, but I wonder if that would solve that problem. Yeah. So there is it line close or something like that? What is it? That's probably it. What parameters does it take? Okay, that's probably it right there. Nope, that ain't it. Yeah, maybe we'll look it up in a second. Yeah, I don't remember, but there is a way to do that. The solution I just gave was I had to draw the line one more time down the first line, which was basically what you said, Ashton, right? Just redraw it further. That's kind of redundant. I don't like that, especially if you're going to animate it and move it around. Then you have an extra line you got to deal with. So I'm gonna have to look at that one up. That's a good one. All right. Other than that nice little mess I pointed out, that's funny. How do we feel about the rest of it? Okay, let's look at rectangles, okay? So I'm gonna I'm gonna just comment this code out. I'm gonna move it down here and just comment it out so it's still there. And you can see it. I'll leave the screen here for just a minute so you can look at it on the video if you want, right there. Okay, and then I will delete it, but we might need to come back to it, so I left it on there. All right, so you can pause the video here if you want to see that code again. All right, let's make the thingy we draw this time a square, all right? So we can do brush dot rect, okay? And what do you suppose it takes in as a parameter? Starting x, y, and then actually, it takes in the width and height, actually. So we want it to be 200 by 200, right? Let's go with that. And we have to draw it. Don't forget to draw it. Oh, man. Okay, Phil. There we go. Big fat square there, right? Okay. Now, let's go ahead and give it a stroke. So let's change the stroke style. And we'll set it to, let's go with orange. Okay, and then we don't forget to actually put the stroke on there. Right? And it's not very thick, but it's there. All right, let's make it thick. Brush line width 20. It's big, thick orange. There's our Halloween square. Okay? All right, so we have a box here. What can we do with the box? What's that? You can play a game. All right, so I'm going to change the background color to something else. Well, notice what happens here. This actually goes behind there. See that? I don't like that. Okay, how can we fix that? Yeah, just draw in a different order, right? So I will draw my mouse text after I draw the box. And then I'm going to change my box to be a different color so I can see it. But now you watch, it'll be on top of that orange there. See that? But it's going to hide when it gets in the box. So let's just change the color of the box to brush.fill style equals red, something hideous. Okay, there. Oh, no. Look at my text now. Okay, here's what's going on there. You can control each one separately. Okay, what's happening here, I'm setting this red down here, and then when I get up to here, it's still red because I just ran that function which set it to red. So I want to set it back to black here. So brush.fill style is black. There we go. All right. Follow what I did there? So you can change it multiple times and have different objects, different colors, obviously. But because I didn't reset it on line 30, it was doing whatever happened to it when I did T-show, which that gives it red at the moment. Okay? And then we just changed it back to black as soon as that ran, right before we ran this. Okay, so here we go. I'm probably going to get rid of that mouse thing. It's starting to bug me a little bit, but I just needed there to show you that it's a useful tool, and you might have it fun with knowing that works. All right. In fact, let me quickly show you something. I have, whenever I do Canvas stuff, in here, I have this template right here. This, if I were to run this page, this is what it looks like. It starts off with a pink canvas, and it has a little thing on there that says Canvas is live, right? So the reason I have the pink canvas, I know that tells me my CSS is working. And the fact that it's full width tells me my JavaScript's working, right? And the fact that I got this thing trailing around my mouse tells me that my Canvas code is working too. So this is, in one little move, I can see that everything's working. Also, you'll see in here, I have several files. I have all my action listeners in one place. I have my functions that I use, my draw, my setup and everything. So my main class looks like this. I'm just gonna show you this for 2 seconds, but just so you can see. So my main class is just a basic, and I think that's the right one, yeah. It's just the setup and the draw. And I have this box variable here. Box is my variable for an object. This object class is empty if you're looking at that file, and I change it to be based on what I need. But this saves me a lot of work when I'm gonna do a Canvas project, right? All right, anyway, just thought I'd show you that. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's good enough. Okay, so here we are. We got this back. Let's look at our Canvas here. And refresh, we're good. Okay. So what I want to do now is show you how to do a little bit of collision detection with your squares. Okay, with the circles, it's different, right? The circles, you have to take into account the radius location. The squares, it's a little bit trickier, okay? Because the circle, it was dead center. Now, a square up against a wall or something is not too weird. But let's start slow. I'm going to get rid of those coordinates there. Well, no, I'm going to leave them for a minute. You'll see why. All right, so inside of my Thingie function here, right, Thingie method class, we're going to create this dot update move. We'll go with move equals function. Okay. In here, I'm just going to redraw the x and y coordinates, right? So I'm just going to say, which I have to, if I'm going to redraw them, I need to have them in the first place. So this dot x equals 100, and this dot y equals 100. All right. So now this is this dot x, and this dot y. Everybody get what I just did there? Just turn those into variables so I can manipulate them. Okay. All right, so we got this dot x equals 100 and this dot y is 100. We would want to have those variables that are passed in the real world. Maybe we'll change that in a minute. But my move function is going to just simply say this dot x plus equals, I don't know, we'll do like 50. All right, and then in my draw function, I want to t dot move, thingy dot move. There, that's cruising. You can see how fast that was. All right, let's slow that down. There we go, that's a little better. And I can see right where it's at, right? Okay, so that's good. Now, I want it to bounce off that wall. I want it to go back and forth on the wall, right? Right, well, let's look at the full sizes here. The edge of the screen we know is 0, right? Just looking at the x-coordinate. That's as far as I can go. I'm all the way against the wall. What's the right side called? You can't see it because it's off the screen there. What is it, though? It's the width of the canvas, right? It's whatever the canvas width is, or the window width, which will be the same in our situation. So I want to look at when the x and y, which is that top right left coordinate there, right? When it's right up against the edge there, when it's 0, when x is at 0, then I want to bounce. And when x is at the end of the canvas minus the width of the rectangle. Does that make sense? Right? Okay. So let's, in our function here, in our move function, we're going to say if this dot x is equal to 0, then, or if this dot x is equal to the, and I'm using everything globally, which is horrible programming here, right? We would want to pass these variables into the class, but I'm just using it globally for the sake of teaching how to make, do the animation here. But world dot width minus the rectangle's width, which we're going to go ahead and give these variables here. So this dot w is 200, this dot height is 200. Okay, so this dot w, this dot height. Right? So minus this dot width. All right, so if the x position is at 0 or at the width minus the width of the rectangle, then I want to change this number. I want to multiply it by a -1, right? I want to change, I want x to go backwards, okay? I could just say x times equals -1, but what's that going to do? It's just going to go back and then go forward again, right? right? So I don't want that. So I need to make this a parameter as well, right? Or a variable. So this dot x speed is equal to 5, and this dot y speed, because we're going to deal with that in a minute, is equal to 5 as well, all right? So now this is going to be plus equals x speed, this dot x speed. All right, I've just refactored my code a little bit there. Before I finish this, I'm going to pause and let you guys look at it and see what questions you have. All right. So now that we've got this x speed and y speed in place, what we can do here is change it to be a negative or a positive number. So when this way, it'll be either adding a negative number, it'll keep getting more and more negative, or it'll keep getting more and more positive, depending on what happens. So if I just say this dot x speed times equals -1, that just literally changes it from +5 to -5, and then from -5 back to +5. So with that, it should bounce back and forth off the walls, the left and right walls, and I'm going to speed it up a little bit so we can see it more quickly. Okay. So here we go. Nope. All right, what did I miss? What was that? Yeah, exactly. All right, if this x is 0, let me just look and see what console, okay. Oh, it worked that time. Did I not refresh? Do you see it bounce that time?
Yeah.
Now the left one's not working. Okay, well, that's interesting. Let me see. Why you do this? Okay, let me change it to bounce off the window width. That shouldn't matter. Window.innerWidth. No, that shouldn't matter, because if I had a smaller canvas, I don't want it. No, I shouldn't do that. So world.width. All right, let's look at this for a minute, see what's going on. It's not, code shouldn't run sometimes and not other times, right?
Oh, okay. We're checking to see if it's exactly equal. So if the browser doesn't hit that.
Yep, you're right. It should be less than, very good catch, less than or greater than. That you should always do it that way. You're absolutely right, Alex. Good catch. Yeah, very good. So the reason that was a problem is because my canvas isn't square, right? It's not perfectly square, and so not easily divisible by 200. It was for when I put that console, that was a complete coincidence. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Boing. There we go. Nice. Okay. Let's just for fun. Oh, it'll cause a seizure, man. Whew. All right, let's go back to 5 here. Okay, let's mess with the the y plane, right? So again, stop. Okay, the y plane. Y at the very top, you can't see it, but y is 0 right now, and down here it's the width or the height of my canvas, right? All right, so we want to do the same basic idea here. If this dot y is less than 0, right, which means, and again, remember where the XY coordinate, I'm going to turn off the motion for just a minute so we can point to that rectangle. Okay, remember, this is the XY coordinate right here. See, that border goes outside of it, so we might have to consider that as well in our code. But that's 100, 100. That's 100x, 100y. Yeah? And so when this is at 0y, or in our case that we just looked at 0x, or less than 0, then we want to bounce, right? So come down here. If this dot y is less than 0, that should be lowercase y. Or this dot y is greater than the world's height. But also we have to consider that we don't want this part of the rectangle to get below the screen, right? We want this part to get there. And we want to bounce when we get there, right? So in that case, it's minus the height of the box, of the rectangle. And we want to change y speed to be the other way, okay? And then now so we can see x and y happening. This will look a little weird because it's a square and it's going to go in a diagonal here. We'll see how it looks though. And then turn the move back on. And now, and let's speed it up a little bit. Make 15. Now it should bounce all over the screen here, right? Looks good. It's kind of hypnotic. Okay, so now, believe it or not, I'm going to turn that off for just a minute. You want to get creative and figure out how to do JavaScript to toggle it on and off, do that. You guys familiar with Pong?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know everything you need to know now to make Pong work. I'll give one possible exception. How to move the paddles, right? But we know how to move things, right? We've used key events, right? We did that the other day, I think, didn't we? Where if we pressed a different button, a different thing would happen.
Yeah, we looked at Phil Murray.
Oh yeah, we made the Phil Murray thing. That was actually not in Canvas, but yeah, right? But it was still the same idea, being the same thing. So you could make Pong here, right? Pong is just a little stick that just a line, right? Or maybe a thick rectangle or a little skinny rectangle, right? That you can move. In fact, moving a skinny rectangle will probably be easier to deal with than a line, right? So that line can move up and down. Maybe use the up and down arrow keys for that. And this one can go up and down. Maybe use the Q and the Z or something for up and down. And then you just have a ball bouncing in there. When it hits the paddle, it bounces off. If it slips through, you score it, right? It wouldn't be that hard to do. There are some rules with the official Pong, though. I don't know if you know this. In the official Pong, like right now, this will just naturally bounce off the wall or whatever and go in whatever direction. In Pong, the angle that it bounces at depends on where it hits the paddle. And that was actually coded into the game. So it would go depending on how it hit the paddle. So you might want to look that up and play around with that. That'd be tricky if you want to do a Pong, okay? All right, how are we feeling about all this stuff? We doing good? Okay, so we've looked at a few things now. We looked at how to we can write text in the canvas. I just happen to write my text and stick it to my mouse. You don't have to do that, right? You don't have to do that, but you could. But let's just quickly back up here. What if I wanted to make that box stick to my mouse, right? I could, let's see, we'd want to give the box its X and Y coordinate would be mouse.x. I think that's all we need to do. Mouse.y, and I'm going to turn that off for a minute. That should make the box stick to my mouse. Yeah? See that? Okay. This can be useful if you're making like a billiards game, right? Maybe you position the cue ball somewhere by dragging it like that. Or if you just wanted to have a bunch of things you wanted to collide with, just drag the box into the thing, or the ball or whatever you're going to collide into. This is also a good way to test your collision detection to make sure it's working properly. So if I had two squares, I want to make sure their collision detection is working properly. You can test them by having a stationary square and then dragging the other square up against it and having something appear in the console when they hit, so you know that the collision happened. Okay, any questions so far? Let me undo that little bit of code here. So we've learned how to draw lines, which you can make polygons or anything with. All right, so lines, rectangles, arcs, and text. Yeah.
Can we also draw images?
Yes.
Okay.
Am I going to show you how? No. But you can draw images. There's a couple other things you can do. You can use images though. All right, that's a whole different animal. I've never really messed with that, but that is possible, yeah. All right, other questions? Okay, so we're going to do one more thing here. I'm just debating, we have 8 minutes. I want to do a collision detection thing other than bouncing off the walls. So let's take a look at this. First, I'm going to get rid of that border. Line width right here. The reason I want to get rid of the border is because that may affect the collision detection a little bit. I don't want to bother doing the math on that right now. So we're just going to stick to just a square with a different color. Holy cow. Blue. That's better. Okay, get rid of that stroke. Get rid of that orange. Okay. All right, and I am going to pass in parameters now. So we're going to go x comma y, x, y, width, and height. Okay, and that should all be good. We'll get rid of this x, y, w, and height. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to, let's turn the move off actually. So I have one thingy here, I'm going to draw another thingy, so we'll call it stu equals new thingy. And we're going to pass in here 100, 100, whoops, 200, 200, right? And then for this thingy, it's going to be, that's going to be on my mouse. Mouse.x, mouse.y, and we want to also make it 200. Okay. Now, I don't want this anymore. And let's just start there, see if everything worked out okay. I didn't do u.show. Okay, and why is that? Is that still orange or is that just, no, okay. All right, so we have a problem here with my mouse event not working. Why are you not working? Oh, well, yeah. Oh, crap. Oh, that's going to be a pain in the butt to add that functionality in 6 minutes. Well, bummer. What I wanted to show you is how you can detect if two rectangles are colliding. So we may have to take a different approach here. I was going to attach it to my mouse, and that's going to be a little bit more of a pain than I was thinking. Because I need to create a whole separate object, a whole separate rectangle to do that instead of using the same thingy object. So let's not do that. Let's let me position two rectangles here. Let's just position them manually at like let's do like 250, 250. Let's try that. Okay, so we got two rectangles. I want to move that over just a hair, like 350. And I actually want to go on the Y plane at 100. There we go. So I'm going to just edge that rectangle over a little bit in the console by changing its position, the X position, so it'll move over. So in other words, if I just do this, and I say this dot X minus equals 5. Sorry, that should have been u dot X minus equals 5. See how it scoots it over a little bit? I can keep scooting it manually a little bit at a time. Follow me there? Okay. So, why not a number? So I hit this dot X again. That should be, it should be u dot X. Fine. So what I want to do is test if it collides. All right, here's what I want to check here. What I'm looking for with my collision detection is, here we have this collision detection right here. We're not going to bother with that because it's not going to happen. We're gonna change this to where we're not messing with this at all. And so when we run the move, we're only going to look for something else. We're going to look for a collision. Let's do, actually, let's do this outside of here. Where are we at? Yeah, okay, here we go. Let's see how much I can get done in like 3 minutes. We're going to make a function here that's called this.collide. It's a function, and it takes in another object, another rectangle. Where'd my code go? Right there. So in this object, we're going to be comparing this to the other. Follow me? Right? Hey guys, it's the end of the video, and I mentioned to you in class that I was going to record the collision detection portion of it and tack it onto the end of this video and upload it. You'll recall we had about 5 minutes left in class. Well, of course you'll recall because you just watched this video and you saw it. But as you can see, There's 5 minutes left in class, and I was going to attempt to write the collision code in 5 minutes. Yeah, I could have probably written the code in 5 minutes, but there's no way anybody would have understood it, possibly including myself, because there's so much stuff that goes into it. So I've detailed it out. I did record all of the stuff that I told you I was going to tack onto the end of this video, but because it took so much longer, I've decided to make it a separate video. So you'll have, once this video that you're watching right now is over, you can just start playing the other one. All right, so 2 videos, but you'll have a lot of good information about collision detection. So watch it, live it, learn it, love it, and enjoy it. I'll see you guys in class.